Welcome to the Garage Network podcast. Join us and the occasional special guest as we discuss everything automotive, from fixing cars as a technician, owning an automotive workshop or business, overall work-life balance, and even the occasional laugh. This time on TGN Tech Talks, we have Donny Seyfer giving Mike and Jeff a walkthrough of the new functions on the AASRA website and the VSP system for accessing PIN codes. Check it out.
Well, thank you, Donny. Thank you so much for doing this.
Sure, absolutely.
What is your actual role? You're the AASRA conveyor coordinator. What actually is it? What is it? What's your role?
Not anymore. I was working as the interim executive director for AASRA, and now that Roger's in place, I've kind of just moved over to software support, and I've sort of been transitioning myself out of all the things I was doing. So right now I'm mostly just working with automakers and then helping it with any unusual support tickets that come up.
Yeah, I dare say there's quite a few support tickets at the moment, maybe.
They've actually got it down to a handful every day now, so I know they answer quite a few, but not too bad. It's gotten much better.
Yeah, no, we're going to do on Monday. We're going to do a bit of a chat to Roger. I spoke to him today on the phone. He was telling me that he got down from 300 down to 80.
Yeah.
So that they got through a lot of the tickets. So that's purely just because it's had no staff here in Australia. It's been a bit of a uphill battle on here.
Yeah. Well, at one point there was one of my team and I were answering all the support tickets, and we were consistently running 300, 400 behind. And
yeah, right.
But now that Route is on board, she's helped a lot, and then now we've got Natasha, and of course Roger's answering tickets himself. So I just answer the weird ones now. Yeah, which is good. I just don't have the makeup to answer support tickets. Because some of the questions are like, it was like in the first sentence of the piece that you just overlooked before you wrote this email.
Yeah.
Okay, so what would you like to do? Do you want to just like run through the security piece, the new security part of the software, and then is it just going to be the three of us?
Yeah, it's just the three of us. I guess I don't. Well, a couple of things. I mean, we've got 4,000 texts on our page, so I guess two things. Happy for you to take the lead on whatever you think the most common support question has been that needs to be answered, to sort of give them a bit of an understanding. I was saying to Roger today, I don't think a lot of techs know what they've got access to. A lot of people have there's been a little lack of communication on AASRA's part towards the people that have paid their $100, and there's been no communication that they don't have staff. There's all these conspiracy theorists over here in Australia that think that it's just another bureaucratic load of nonsense. We've just paid $100 to some private company and Donny, you're getting a bigger boat next week.
Yeah, he's basking in his pool with his thermals on.
and it's there's a lot. It's no information has been turned into fake news, misinformation, and people's assumptions, stupid assumptions at that. So I guess we need, in short, whatever you'd like to show us. If you want to give us a bit of a walkthrough of the new platform, which I've seen luckily enough, I have the information, but I don't know how much of that I'm allowed to tell other people. So I haven't really been able to tell. I haven't gone public with a lot of the stuff that I've heard, either from a AAA board perspective or from our other meetings where I would watch what you guys were doing as you were setting it up. And I like it today, and it's fantastic. It's really easy to use, and I know it's simple, but maybe we just need to show them that. I think and show them how to whatever you would like to do. So and I guess whatever you'd like to. There might be some questions that arise out of this, so we may have to come back and revisit this just if there are things that people can't get, because Does that make sense?
Why don't we take this approach? You're able to sort of slice and dice this into pieces?
Yes.
Okay, well then why don't we do this? Why don't I take you on a kind of just a general tour of the website, and then you guys can just kind of Q&A me as we go along. You know, if you think of something and say, well, what about this and what about that? I'm happy to do that. I don't think you'll catch me totally flat-footed. Now there may be some automakers that are non-participating that I may not know everything about, but Raj can come back and fill those in because he's been chasing them.
Yeah.
So, okay, well then let me do a screen share here.
Well, hey, should we do a bit of an intro first, Jeff? Do you want to do that? Well, it's easy and not.
We're 5 minutes in now. It's too late.
Okay. Well, that's okay.
Everybody, this is Donny. Donny, everybody.
Welcome, Donny. Thanks.
Hello, everybody.
All right.
So if you can enable screen sharing, then I'm going to log in.
I think I have to make you a host to do that.
Yes, it's on the bottom there. I think, Jeff, it should be.
If you can just make sure you make me a host again afterwards, that'll be fantastic. Oh, hang on a minute. Sorry, I was giving it to Mag. We don't want to do that. Oh, God. There you go. You should have hosting rights now, Donny.
I see that. Okay, one sec. Oh, boy. Okay. I'm going to share a screen. Okay.
Beautiful.
All right, so I'm going to just sort of take you around the site a little bit. Now it's got some dust and construction going on because all of the things that we've updated with all the processes within AASRA are now getting conveyed into how it works on the site itself. So so just kind of bear with me on that. The home page is a work in progress, but nevertheless, there are several buttons here you can push that go various places within the site, but I'm going to show you how the site itself works. And then you've got your various components of the fit and proper person that you can select. You have to have the base technician to select either of the others, and we've got the EV or high voltage, if you will. And this is basically anything except for very light hybrids, which are rare in the market anyway. And then the hydrogen certificate, there's no training yet, and there's no vehicles in market, in mass production. So this is actually hidden in the registration, so you won't see it come up. And then the vehicle security professional piece, which we'll go into a little bit more detail there. So first off, let's go and look at really the key thing that you came for. You're looking for, how do I find information about an automaker? Now bear with me because I am clear across the pond from you, so these things will load a little bit slower for me than they do at home there. So these are the brand pages that we've got for all the brands. So I want to just give you a couple of pointers here. When it says NPB on it with a little banner, that means they're a non-participating brand with AASRA. That means that they do their own fit and proper person validation. They run their own subscription systems, and they're not participating in the security components of AASRA, which would be where you buy key and immobilizer codes and that sort of thing. However, we're still maintaining their information. Now, the other thing is we've got a thing called a missing information report. That is used when you have a brand where you're looking for a piece of information, you've done your due diligence, you've gone into their website, and for some reason or another, you can't find it, it doesn't work. There are some of those bugs out there, and we alert the automaker of those. but you can fill in that missing information report for both the brands that are participating, which have the little dark blue rings around them, and the non-participating brands, because AASRA, as the scheme manager, is responsible for all of those missing information reports and working with all of the brands when there is a complaint or an issue that needs to be resolved. So let's go to one of the brands that is participating, and we'll kind of look at their stuff. Let's go to the Ford page
Donny,
first.
I do have a little question. A few people have asked this. There's nothing really to say what you get. I mean, here when we get to the next page, some people have said, "Oh, is the information you're looking for? If it's not there, you've almost got to pay to go in." What? I suppose because we're feeling our way through. I think someone said, "Have I just got to pay my $25 to try to see if you could get the information?" And then got in there and went, "Oh, my information's not here. I've just done my dough on my $25. I didn't get it wasn't there." Because there's not a very good. Some of the manufacturers, there's not a very good walkthrough as to what information you're actually going to get. Like service information, access fee, and duration. You go, well, is there in that service information? Is there technical service bulletins? Is there repair data? Is there, a lot of Aussies, we don't know because we've never used this before. So so people don't know. I guess people probably don't know what's available to them, if it is available, and what is available.
Mike, I think this page here that Donny's on, I think when you scroll down, it should give you that access as into what you can get from which manufacturer.
No, it doesn't really.
But it makes a good point. So let me cover up on both of those. So yeah, you're right, and there are some issues where you'll go into a page and you can't find it. Now, most of those automakers, when requested, will refund that payment or give you another day, give you a retry once things get sorted out. But that needs to be done through their support link. So we're going to cover off on the most important thing you need to know about how to use AASRA. And that is, who do I go to for support? Well, the answer is twofold. If you have a problem getting information from an automaker, start with them. Go to their support link. And if you still can't get the answer you're looking for, then go to AASRA, file a missing information report, and then the team at AASRA, which we have now, by the way, a whole team at AASRA, they will go to the automaker and ask the question and get a response. Now, the automakers have been pretty good of late getting responses back. There were issues where there was nobody at the email address that they provided to us. There were all kinds of just little communication things. We've pretty much debugged all of that now. So when we ask an automaker for information, someone who actually knows what's going on is getting that email. You have no idea what an undertaking that was. So that's all working now. But what you want to do is you go to their support link. And so for each brand, we have a link to them. Now, in the case of Ford, you send them an email. Some brands have a phone number, some have both. Some we actually host the form right in the page for you. So it'll really just depend on how the brand does it. But in each brand, we've got their method. And you can see in this case, it sends an email, and that email address is the email that Ford receives their technical support questions on. And we've gone through and tested all of these, so they're all functional now. So
Donny, so if we was to, let's say, for example, we did have a problem with Ford, and we click on that email to contact Ford technical support, is that going to Ford Australia or Ford a different country?
That actually goes to Ford Australia. In fact, right now, almost no support goes out of Australia. There are a few brands that don't have in Australia support, or that they're going directly to the brand to get the information because that's where their information manager is. But like here with Ford, they've got two people in market that do nothing but support AASRA and dealers. so that they will answer your questions, and they're pretty speedy about doing it.
Yeah, that's good.
So can I just, I do have a question. So if we clicked on service information that we're going to access, so we pay our $21.95 US, and that takes us, okay, so we're in here. Do we then, so this is I'm just going to pretend like I don't know anything. So we pay our $21, we get in there, and then can we get technical service bulletins? Is that within service information? Is technical service bulletins and repair data, or is it just service information? This is what we want you to do within a service. I'm just putting a real simple hat on.
It's a great question, and technical service bulletins are part of the service information under the scheme. The way that you get to them kind of depends on the brand because of the way they do TSBs. So some of them may actually come up when you do a VIN search. Some of them may actually be embedded in a tool. We think we're pretty good on that, but that's going to remain for folks to tell us. So there's a good possibility when I click on this that we're going to be going to the United States, but let's see. Because I'm not using a VPN at the moment. I think I'm going to the United States.
It's the same one anyway at the back end.
Yeah, pretty much.
I think a lot of them just redirect you to the States or yeah.
Well, many of them use, and this is important. So, because we're running into some issues with this. Many of the AASRA members are using a VPN, thinking that these sites are coming from the United States. And that's not actually true. If you use a VPN and you're using a US address, you won't actually get the right website.
Yeah.
Many of the sites are sense your IP address, and they give you the market that you're in by where your location is. So so don't use a VPN when you're doing this. At least don't use it and then go out of market, because you will get the wrong site. And I apologize, I didn't think about turning the VPN on, but then I got to make a lap to Australia, back to the United States, and then back to Australia again, and then we really get slow. So
it's nice to know that you have a VPN there in the background, just in case, Donny.
Yeah. Well, and so the other thing that's happening while we're talking about little pieces of information that nobody knows, many AASRA members are using really outdated knowledge base information about NASTAF to try to manage the AASRA account, and there's no resemblance. We built AASRA at NASTAF, but it's not the same. It may bear some resemblances, but with the fit and proper person component, nothing works the same. And how I know that is they'll send an email and they'll give me their VSP ID, which even NASTAF hasn't used as a means to identify our members since 2018. So I know you're reading the old locksmith and posts that are out there on Identifix and DN, but we don't do that anymore. We use your email address. So we don't need your VSP ID, because not only do you know it, but we know it, and almost no brands use it anymore, or yet. Now, there may be some that do. So just keep that in mind. If you see a blue button here, that means we have a link that's been tested with the automaker. So you will see some brands where we have way more buttons, because they have more resources that are already available that maybe go beyond the requirements of the law. And I would bring up to you that with Ford, if you're working on Fords, please take the time. See, I got people trying to send me all kinds of nasty malware too. But when you're working on Ford, take the time to read their page, because there's a lot of information up here. It's still a little wonky because they're still building software for this diagnostic software key that basically allows the diagnostic software to work. So this particular brand, we've got some sort of unusual ways that we're doing things. So just be sure that you read this before you run off and try to fix a Ford and then get stymied and upset. So I'm going to take us to another example of a brand page.
Can I just ask some questions on Ford, for example, there? So can we use a J2534 device with that, or do we have to hire the equipment? That was access to their software, and we could use a J-Box or not, or is that?
You can use a J-Box. There are some operations that, the J-Box will have problems with, but if you're using FDRS on the newer ones, by and large, it works. Now, we've got some issues software specific with Ford. They're not AASRA specific, if you will. They're happening all over the world. And NASTAF's working with the Ford guys here to get them resolved. And I'm also sharing anything I see that comes up with Australia as well, so that it helps them to connect the dots, because they are building the software for Australia in the US. And so, we're trying to make sure that what you get all works from day one, because our guys have sort of been the beta testers for FDRS and FJDS. So, which both work with a J-Box. So there's just a few functionalities that you can't do strictly on a J-Box, but it's mostly older vehicles, right? That use the older protocols, like, I can't even think of the protocols, J1850.
Yeah.
So, some of those older vehicles, they won't work properly with the software, but I think even FJDS has got some of that worked out. So let me take you to GM, and the way I'm using my mouse here is causing chaos.
I noticed Haynes Pro's in there. Did you notice that, Joe?
Well, yeah, they pulled the EV data out, didn't they?
Oh, right. Okay.
Well, so and other third-party information providers will also be showing up. Roger's working on that because technically, by the law, they're data aggregators, right? So they have to comply as well. So we've had Haynes up there for since July of last year. So this is General Motors page, which is about to also get overhauled, because they've got a bunch of FAQs they've built out, did a really nice job on them, and we're going to have little videos within the page that will help. So this website can do a lot of things it's not yet doing, because this was such an undertaking to get all of this information for all the brands. But now it's getting more features added. So it can do video, it can do screen captures, it can do all of the things that will make it easier for people to find their way around. So subscriptions on every brand page, you'll find their subscriptions. Now, in this particular case, GM does daily, monthly, yearly, but others may do hourly, weekly, and those will be added as well. They're only required to have short, mid, and long, but other brands may have multiples, and so we've listed those. They've also got diagnostic information subscriptions, and they're listed individually. And then we posted up all of their various packages, right, as they fit into the market. And then security information. Now, while we're on this, General Motors is a little unique in that if you file a security request, you will get all of the information for that vehicle on the one request. They just give it all to you. So you need to be careful with that. Make sure that you don't put that anywhere where it shouldn't be. Make sure the only person you give that to is the vehicle owner. But then you'll also see that we've got
GM. It was sorry to cut you off there, Donny. I think there was a bit of an uproar with GM, wasn't there, Mike, for pin codes and things
pin
like
codes
that.
And stuff. Everything got lost. So a lot of people got cranky because of the legislation said they weren't allowed. People used to ring up their local dealer and get the pin code, and then when the legislation came in, they were like, we can't get it anymore because they had to comply with this. So they weren't giving it out over the phone. And then I believe there was some other issues where all of our VINs, America didn't have all of our VINs. They got lost, or we weren't sure.
Yeah, I heard all the Australian VINs were lost, but I don't know how true that is. It could be, one of those.
Well, it looks like it's there. There's Holden legacy software, so there
Yeah.
must be stuff that.
Maybe we found it.
So the folks we've been working with have I've not heard that there were any problems with them having access to the actual security information, but their process will be a little bit different because they are one of the biggest key code and immobilizer, well, not immobilizer because they don't have much for immobilizer in the United States, but they're one of the biggest key code vendors, if you will, in NASDAQ. And so they've got this very robust system. And so we're actually working with them to adapt that to the Australian model. So you will fill out your customer authorization form. In NASDAQ, we call it a D1, and it seems that that's already kind of stuck in Australia. I was trying to not do that to you, but I guess that's the way it is. So anyway, that customer authorization form, you'll fill that out first, and then their website will, when we switch them over to automated, their website will make a call to AASRA to confirm that D1 is completed or that customer auth is completed, and then they'll give you the information that you seek. And we'll be passing the payload back and forth, which should make it easier for folks to do it. Not quite as slick as the brands where we're completely automated, but it was just a big lift to do that with GM system, and we would have still been working on it next year. So we've got their service info. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. What sort of timescale would they be looking at if sending a D1? You know, is it like a 2-day process, or is it within the hour?
Oh no, it's instantaneous.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so it's instantaneous. Once you complete the D1, it's sitting in the system, and then when you go over to GM, it makes the call, and AASRA responds in milliseconds.
Okay,
so
fantastic.
The link up is real quick. Now, right now, what happens is so don't change the process now that I told you what the automated one's going to look like. Right now, what you do is you make the order within the system, and then the folks at GM are in the background, and they help you through the rest of the process. So we've got some folks who are going to GM first to their website, to AC Delco TDS, and that's not the process. You start over here. Now we're going to have some help videos up for that that'll go on the vehicle security info link. But so you've got each of their various links that they have, and you can go out to them and get the information you need. I'm not going to click on these because what's going to happen is if I click on them, I'm going to go to the United States because that's where I'm at, because that's how their site works. But in your market, it works right. And then you've also got this Holden legacy software and Holden owner manuals and stuff like that. These pieces are actually hosted within Australia, but within some of the pieces are within AASRA, so that you can download them directly. There's no charge for them. They just decided it was easier than having you go hunting for it on their site. So that's just an example of that. We have quite a bit of traffic on GM, so I thought it was a good brand to look at. And there's also a file up here that you can actually download a little PDF. Whenever we show you this blue stuff, it means that we've got a file for you that you can look at and get some directions. This will be replaced with a more up-to-date and much more extensive version here shortly. So I want to take you to a non-participating brand and show you how it works. So if you've been using the site, you'll notice that we did merge all of the brands together and then just sort of identified them by the way we display their logos. So all of these, as I mentioned before, these are AASRA participating members. That means they support AASRA and work directly with us and are in the security program, with just a couple of exceptions. These brands are not. And so let me show you how that works. We'll use Volkswagen.
This caught me out recently. I was like, wow. I was like, BMW have come to and now a participating brand. And, you know, obviously I'm blind as a bat. I wear glasses like jam jars. And then I saw in like the faintest grey writing NPB. And I'm like, oh, like, I think it would probably be a good idea for the powers that be to make that a bit bolder for your blind members.
The problem is, I made them subtle because you get into this big battle with brands over their logo and how you use it. In fact, you'll notice we don't have any Volkswagen logos because they never gave them to us because they're non-participating. So we just put their names on buttons. So this page is actually going to get broken out by brand. And but for right now, all of the brands that VWAG sells in Australia are listed with direct links to their page. Now, what we do have for you is a little bit of information about how they do it. So for their fit and proper person application, they charge the individual $350 if you want to be set up so that you can buy security coding, $350 for EV information. It's a one-time charge, but you have to pay it for each brand.
I know. I had to pay it.
I suspect that there's going to be a little discussion with the ACCC over this. But they say it takes a lot of time to do it. It's like, yeah, we know we're actually signing up members, but we're doing it for significantly less than they are. So you've got their subscriptions here. As you see, they've got hourly, daily, weekly. But I did it by each of the brands. So Volkswagen and Cupra were the same, so I put them together. Audi diagnostic software and Volkswagen diagnostic software, the Otis package. Audi and Bentley service information. We got Skoda, we got Lamborghini, we've got Cupra, we've got Skoda again for their Otis. The prices were somewhat different, so I wound up having to make a separate one for each one of them. And so we're going to actually break these off into separate brands. I didn't do this originally because they don't support AASRA, and it was taken, 3 to 5 hours a piece to chase down the brands and build these pages out. So what we do have is a support link. So if you go to one of these links and you can't find what you need, you can use the support link. It is the support to Volkswagen. And then they should presumably give you some assistance.
And Jeff, you've done that, yeah? I've
done that. Look, it was. I don't want to do it again. It made the AASRA application look pretty easy, to be honest. But yeah, I've done it. It can be done.
So there's their site. Now, the other thing is, as many of you know who are already AASRA members, if you go to an AASRA supporting brands page, you put in your AASRA username, which is your email. Then you put in your 12-character password that you use to get into the AASRA site. And then the next thing it does is it challenges you for a passcode. And that's that Authy app that we use to generate the 2 form factor. So many of the brands do that a little bit different from one to the other. They call them something different. We published a style guide. Not everybody did it. But these guys don't use that. They're not looking for that. They're doing their own fit and proper person. So you'll have to just work with them. So that's that piece. So let's close a couple of these and we'll get back to this page. So I want to show you a couple of other things that are your friends. This news and FAQ page, this is where we put all the documentation on how do you do things. We're having a problem with this, here's how you fix it. Or you're having a problem with this, here's how you fix it. Or we've got something brand new, like we've got Kia, who's now automated. And I'll take you through the security process here in just a minute. how to do self-service upgrades. This is a new feature that we added. For those of you who had to add a VSP after you originally registered, you know that was time consuming. It required one of our support desk folks to be involved and documents going around and around, and those could take some time to get done. Now you can do that completely self-serve. You can go into your account and click a little button, which my account won't have because I'm currently using an account that won't have. I'm not even logged in right now. All this stuff we're looking at, you can do without logging in. So anyway, this is how there's a PDF to show you how to do it. It's got screen captures, shows you all the details. How do you manage security requests after you create them? How do I know if the automakers responded to me or not? There's a whole PDF on the slides on how to do that. There's the security information request. These are all the slides on step-by-step, how do you do it, along with a flow chart so you can see, and all kinds of comments to give you tips on how to do it. So these docs are all sitting there waiting for you. Also know that if you're looking for something, we don't have a massive amount of information out there right now, but if you're looking for a particular piece of information, if you type anywhere on any page in search the posts, it'll come back with all of the posts that have matches in it, every kind of search way you can imagine. So think about it as a Google search without any censorship. There's nothing we leave out. If it's got Kia in it, it's going to come up with Kia. So you can use that all over the site. You can also do it by category. And right now there's only a couple of headlines, so they're not really of much help. But you'll also see all of the most recent posts everywhere you go throughout the site. These will show up for you so that you can use them. So let's see, let's take you to, let's look at the missing information report real quick. Okay, so within this page, there are a few little details to be aware of. The missing information report, we're happy to help. There's just a couple of things you have to do first. First, you have to use a support link and ask the brand to help you, because if they don't know, you can't call it missing information yet. But they're usually pretty responsive. If you find a brand is not, that's why the missing information report's there. Now, what we need from you is we need you to fill this out. We've got folks sending this in and it's not completely filled out. We did have to leave some of it so that it's wildcard and it's not required, because you may not be asking about a VIN. You may be saying, I'm trying to buy a subscription and it won't work. Well, give me the VIN number doesn't do much good, does it? But when you are working on a vehicle, give us the VIN, because that helps the automaker to back up on what it is you're trying to do. We have some people saying, well, how come it only goes back to 2002? Well, that's because that's when the scheme starts. And so those are the vehicles that are supported is 02 forward. Some automakers are providing information further back. Some automakers have security information further back, but they don't have to. So it's up to them if they do. And so tell us what repair you were trying to perform. And, the more detail you can give us, the better. Use cut and paste some links and things like that. Here's where I was, I couldn't do it. What's missing? Is it information? Is it a tool availability issue? Is it a tool that doesn't do what it's supposed to do? Is it a pricing issue? Does it seem that the price is out of line, or missing, or whatever the case may be? Did you have to wait a really long time, or this is the catch-all for everything else? So the more that you provide information, the more likely you are to get a decent response. And then when you're all done, you just hit send email. That goes over to our support desk. Our folks will look at those. We tag them by brand. We tag them as missing information report, because we have to report these to the AAAC. And then we send it over to the brand and say, hey, can you help? And we've got a list of email addresses for the technical support folks for the brand, so we can make sure it gets to the right person. Again, there's that search.
If it goes that far where a support link's been sent out and potentially no reply, then an MIR, and then you send your information there, what happens when the manufacturer doesn't do anything about it? What occurs then?
So if that happens, where a brand doesn't do anything about it, or doesn't make a good faith effort to solve the problem, then AASRA reports those in their report to the AAAC. Okay. Right. So those, they get a shot to solve it, but if they don't solve it, then those go out in a report, and that is an active conversation that goes on with the AAAC and AASRA.
Yeah.
So now that Roger is in place, and and they're working at the same hours that everybody else does, I was working through the board, and then the board was having to do it, so it was slower. But now Roger's got direct connection with those folks, and I think
Roger's the ass kicker, so to speak.
Yeah, Roger's the guy who keeps everybody on the clock.
I like it. I like it.
I also want to note here that 24 hours is considered the time that you shouldn't have to wait longer than 24 hours if you send a support note to an automaker. If you do, they've told us they'll be at 24 hours. I believe the law actually even stipulates that they need to be done in 24 hours. So some of these were taking significantly longer.
Yeah, mine's taken 6 months. Oh, well, no, they got back to me, but we haven't been able to do it with Mazda, but we just need to work it. They just won't give me the login. But so that support link, the button at the top of the page, if you click on that, that'll take you to a complete list of all the automakers support links.
No, this is us. This is a support link for us.
Oh, that's you. Okay.
This is to show you what it looks like. Right. So you can find it. If you're having trouble finding information, use a support link that looks like this on the brand page.
Yeah.
I mean, Mike, if we was to look at Mazda, I mean, like 6 months ago when you lodged your your MIR, did you send a support link, or did you go straight to an MIR to AASRA?
No. I had conversations with Mazda.
Okay.
We had conversations. There were emails going backwards and forwards with Mazda, and then we just basically reached a stalemate. And I lodged an MIR to say, look, I didn't think it was fair and reasonable in what they were saying.
So with Donny, we've been nicknaming him Mazda Mike because I think it's his favourite manufacturer. But surely within 6 months they should have come back and had a resolve for you or a solution.
Well, they do know that they had a result for me, but I didn't accept the result. I could have quite easily just hired their tool and spent $500. A little bit like right now with you. You spend all this money being logged into VW. Now, like Donny said, is that fair and reasonable under the legislation? That might change.
No, it's different. Like I think the hourly rate with VW is quite reasonable, and that the 350 is the cost of them vetting you, so to speak. And look, that's it, done and dusted. But I wouldn't. You can't compare Volkswagen to Mazda. At least somebody from VW does get back to you. I mean, it costs you, but not as much as Mazda. Sorry, we're having a massive Mazda bash here, Donny. I dare say you've seen a few Mazda MIRs.
Look, we'll just see what happens. But it's one of those things that, look, I mean, we're it's okay. It just is what happens. We'll see what happens in the future. It's just one of those things.
Well, let's have a look at the security request, and to do that, I'm actually going to kill this window and share a different one with you, because I want to just use my slides for this as opposed to stop share for a sec. And I go here. I think this is the one we want. It is. Share this one up.
So, Jeff, did you learn a few things there? There were a few things there that you didn't know were there, yeah?
Yeah, I didn't know we was to I would have gone straight to an MAR instead of contacting the manufacturer. I didn't know that. Look, I don't hugely use AASRA, but no, look, I thought it was good, and certainly the GM information. It's going to be, not that I do anything with GM, but it would be good to explain to people the confusion. I think there's a bit of confusion going on.
And there's news and stuff that's up there, that's on there. There's information there.
I mean, it's in its infancy, but news is news, you know, and the more they get, the more they'll put on. So I think it's good.
We've been trying to sort of stick with a higher level approach to what we're providing, so that it doesn't get so granular that it gets overwhelming. So we've really been trying to say, okay, here's how the system works, and then come back on some of the details. So if there's a brand that needs more explanation, we try to put it on their page, so that if you'll take the time to read their page, you can learn about how they work. So let me kind of walk you through the new security request, because this software was released here just a few weeks ago, and it's working really well. We had a couple of weird little bugs that occurred when we launched it into the Microsoft Azure environment, and but those have been ironed out since. And so this is kind of how it works in a sort of a flow chart way. You're going to log into SDRM, which stands for Secure Data Release Model. That's what this AASRA website is. And then you choose a security request from the menu. I'm going to take you through this. You're going to look at the descriptions to determine which kind of customer authorization form you're going to use. You're going to click to the little blue button to open the form. You're going to complete that form. You're going to tick Prepare Security Request. We had a problem in here that we've revised on the site, so that you don't have too many options and don't get confused. You make your payment next, you pay for the data that you get, and a tax invoice is sent to you. The automaker receives your request. Now, if it's an automaker that's manual, which is most of them right now, in fact, right now, everybody but Kia, then they actually have a person on the other end who receives a technical email that tells them to log into the website, and then they fill out a form so we can securely hold that information until you come back to get it. Now, in the automated version, that information is immediately available as soon as you complete the form and pay. So you come back to get your information. If it's a manual process, you come back and get it at your convenience as soon as that automaker's filled it in. And again, we've asked for 24 hours. We get it. That's not fast enough when you're a locksmith. It's not fast enough when you got a car in the bay. But we're trying to get this thing sped up as fast as we can, and automate as many brands as we can. The majority of brands have agreed to be automated. Some of the smaller brands that don't do a lot of volume, they're going to stay manual, so that they're not going to be speedy, but nobody else is going to be speedy with them either. So as that sort of fleshes out, we'll publish more information about who that is and how it's going to work. We also added a new feature so that you can actually download a tax invoice for directly from your account for 30 days. And then after 31 days, it'll email that receipt to you. Just a little thing that Stripe does. So let's kind of walk through the process. So you're going to come over to this menu. You have to be logged in for this to work, and you have to be a vehicle security professional. Have to have that credential on your account to do this. Most people seem to have figured that out just fine. Now we've got set up for you. We've got some information. These are the basic reminders that you can't share this information with anybody. You can't share your Authy code with your buddy in the shop. You are the fit and proper person. You access and use that data. If your buddy needs it, they need to become a fit and proper person. That's the law. That's the way it's written. You can't email this information. You can't text it, because once it's out there, the car is never secure again. And you can just take my word for it. Some brands have lost everything, all of their stuff. So we've got 4 forms right now. Really, 3 of them are of interest to most of your folks, and that would be the regular customer authorization. This is just the standard form you use when you're working for a customer that's your customer. We've got a fleet and an outside service one. This would be when you're working for a company that's got multiple vehicles, and you really can't get some of the information that you would be able to get from the vehicle owner. Like, the driver's license isn't going to do you much good if the person dropping off the vehicle is just, a driver, not have any relationship to the vehicle. You may have trouble getting things like insurance. So you need to have some kind of proof of ownership and some document that says that you've got permission to service the vehicle. A signed repair order in these cases is often fine. And I'm applying this to the repair shop mentality for auctions and like municipal businesses and things like their municipals, like cities that own vehicles. It's kind of a different feel for them. But this is just sort of the brief overview of how these things work. And then this, the contracting one, this is more for the mobile guys that go out and support repair shops, or a locksmith who's coming in and doing work for a repair shop. This basically says that the repair shop is responsible for collecting the customer proof that they own the vehicle, and that, confirming their identity and all of that. And then that locksmith or mobile diagnostician, pardon me, is responsible for verifying that and completing the form. The dealer authorization is for dealers to use. It's just built a little bit differently so that the dealers can upload what their brand requires of them. So it's got the flexibility to do that, because some brands require some things, some brands require other things. So we built this specifically for the franchise dealers. So this really won't fit you. In most cases, this is the most similar one. Now, if you're working for a dealer, you're still going to use this one. This one is just for the dealers to use. So you're going to select security requests. And then there's that next screen that I just went over without things in the way. And then you're going to fill in either your VIN or the registration plate number. Either of these will work. Then hit decode. Now, I want to tell you about a few things that happen if you're working on really new vehicles. Every once in a while, we will get a vehicle that IHS can't decode, and it'll come back that it can't decode. So here's what you do. Take a VIN for something else and get past this. You can actually manually enter this and go on. But if you can't get it to decode, you can actually just bypass this and then get the VIN in correctly once you get the form to go. Just skip the decoding part, right? Pick the country. The only option you have right now is Australia. State and territory, obviously you can pick all of that. You're going to enter the driver's license information as you received it. If a vehicle is presented without a driver's license, I know that can happen. It happens in our market. Just be very careful about, are you creating a liability for your business by making a vehicle run or drive? Again, more locksmiths than repair shops. But are you making a car run and drive for somebody who does not have a driver's license? And if they go out and get in a crash, does that open you up for liability? So just be thinking about that because you can accept other than a driver's license in your market. NASDAQ, we don't allow that, but in Australia, you may need to do that. And you can take passport, something government issued. So you collect their information, their phone number, address, blah, blah, blah. Everything should match up to the documentation they provided you. If it doesn't, then that should make you wonder. So I actually screwed this up on purpose so that it would do this. So if the VIN does not decode, it will say the VIN doesn't decode. If you click this little enter manually button, it overrides that search and allows you to continue on. So this is a new feature we built in because we've had a few, particularly like brand new models that just don't show up in IHS data yet. So this is how I manually decode. We bring up a little dialog box for you. You fill in the information and you make the decision about what everything is. So I have found quite a few vehicles listed where the vehicle owner didn't know what year their vehicle actually was and they were wrong. So make sure that you don't believe them. You better actually check the VIN and make sure it matches. So you can manually decode. And by the way, this document is up on the AASRA website under news and FAQ. I'm just going through it with you. So then you fill out this form. I'm using the regular customer authorization. That's what I was showing you. And this is just a few notes about this block. In general, for now, until the law potentially or probably changes there, you want to take a picture of their driver's license and the proof of ownership and upload them using this button. Now, I'm not there, but if you get somebody who really gives you a hard time about that, explain to them why. This is security information. I have to prove that I had your permission to access your vehicle's information. If that doesn't dissuade them, then just enter their information off their license and call it good. No need to get into a fight over it. I know some people are going to be very sensitive because of some of the data breach situations. Sometimes we find that addresses, they don't match. And there could be good reasons. So be sure that you're checking that those addresses match. And if they don't, ask why. It may be that they're registered at their business or they're registered here or there. They got a summer home over here and a winter home over here, whatever the case may be. But look for a reasonable answer because you are going to have people who will try to work you. Even as careful as we've made all of the NASTAF folks, we get 1 to 2 socially engineered car thefts a month, which isn't actually all that bad out of 300,000 plus transactions a year. But, we figure we can avoid them all as best we can. So as I mentioned, you're going to upload documents, and these are encrypted, by the way, for your information. They are encrypted in both directions. They encrypt when they go in, and if you actually use your phone to take the pictures, they won't save on your phone. They will just pass right straight through from your camera into SDRM. They're encrypted as you upload, and they're encrypted when they come back down, which means if somebody were to hack the system, they'd have to have our security keys for both directions. No possible way they're going to break both of those. So if that helps some customers that are a little worried, we get what's called penetration testing. We get tested on a regular basis to make sure that the hackers can't hack us. And we've got some of the best hackers in the world that try to hack us. Here's just a little bit of information about this. I'll let you review this by downloading the file. But as I mentioned, if you take a photo, and by the way, use your phone to fill out these D1s. Your phone does some pretty cool stuff. If you've got an iPhone with Androids, your mileage will vary depending on the phone itself, but you can scan text on an iPhone. You can actually hold it over the VIN, scan it, and cut and paste it right into the D1. You don't have to type the whole VIN in. You just capture it. The other cool thing you can do with the iPhone is if you're working on a desktop and you need Authy, you can hit copy on the phone for Authy and then paste it on your desktop with your browser if you're using Safari. So that's kind of cool. Actually, you can use it with anything if you're on an Apple, but if you're using Safari, you can do that.
Is AASRA sponsored by Apple by any chance?
No, as a matter of fact, not. We just have every platform so we can test everything.
I'm only joking.
Yeah, I understand. But as it turns out, we just have a very large number of iPhones that access the system, and so I thought you might find that interesting. So your VSP information is filled in for you. All you have to do is remember to click and sign, and you can do that with a mouse. You can do it with your finger if you're on a phone, whatever. Now, this information will also be filled out. Let's go ahead and skip to that. Here's the little screen that'll pop up when you want to sign it. Again, we remind you of your legal requirements. We do it over and over. So when you sign, you're agreeing to it. If you didn't get it the way you wanted it, you can click the little clear button. You'll see this in a few places throughout SDRM where you can reset and start over. Like if you go to get a key or an immobilizer code, once you start clicking on these things, after you hit this button, which I'll show you in a sec, you can clear those as well. So yeah, you sign, you hit save. So when you're doing a security request at this point, you've entered all your information into your D1, and you're going to click this little button right here that says prepare security information request. When you do that, then that will take you over to payment. These buttons are just there for convenience. If you're not going to finish, if you're not going to pay, you're not really ready, you can hit save for later and you don't lose this whole transaction. If you go back to dashboard, it'll ask you, but you will lose the transaction if you do it. Now, maybe you decide, I don't need that information. Maybe, you change your mind, you don't need it. You can hit cancel order and at any time in the process, until the automaker has responded, you can use cancel order, and it will it'll credit your credit card if you've already paid, or it'll just delete the.
Well, I guess if it's taking 24 hours to get it, like you might prepare that with the customer and save it for later and go, right, are we ready to go? We know what we want to do. We've got all their information. Or if the customer's there with you and you carry on later on in the day. Because I guess you can't get to this point unless we've got their driver's license and their rego papers either, can we? We'd already need to.
Well, you can save anywhere along the way.
Okay.
So let's say you want to put all the information you've got and you're waiting for a driver's license.
Yeah.
You can save that for later.
Yeah. Okay.
So we kind of wrote this piece with the locksmiths in mind, because oftentimes they'll take a phone call, they'll have some basic information, then they get out in the field to confirm what it is they actually need. And so this allows them to not have to do the whole thing in the field. They can take some information over the phone and then come back to it. So, but yes, you're right, Mike. You can definitely use this to come back later and save anywhere along the line.
I can actually see a lot of our customers texting us a copy of their rego papers and a photo of their license, and then we're going to have to delete them out of for privacy reasons. We'll have to delete them out of our phones. That's what I think is going to happen.
Yeah, upload them and then delete them. That's the ticket. Yeah, there's no need to keep that stuff. It's just, and we're actually working on some plans to change the way we handle that and how long we keep that PII, that personally identifiable information. So we're just sort of waiting for the law because I don't want to do it twice. So this is the actual where we're going to close the transaction out. So when we hit this prepare button, then the next step it does is it takes us to this where it'll say, tell us what information you want. Now, if the radio code comes up as 0, that right now that means the brand doesn't have any. GM will come up 35 all the way down, but they only charge you once. We are working out some of those details with the brands because we have to actually create a product for what they deliver for each one. And we're still working on some of that. So bear with us. You should actually pay the correct number, even though it may display crazy over here, because this information comes out of a database, and then the actual payment information comes out of a product database that's within Stripe. So it should come out correct for you regardless. Like this is an example where the key code's 38, the immobilizer's 38. If you want both, it's 38. Well, okay. So you get it all for that. So anyway, you hit pay and send request. Now at this point, you still have these buttons available up until you hit that, and then you canceling the order. If the automaker hasn't answered it yet, you can cancel it, but you can save for later. Once you hit pay and send request, there's no need to save. It's already saved. Actually, when you hit prepare order, there's no need to hit save. It's already saved. So when we take you over to the Stripe payment screen, this is hosted. AASRA does not collect nor keep any of your credit card information. That's a security thing. SDRM keeps no secure information except those pictures. And so this is hosted directly with Stripe. So we go out to them, you fill in your information with them, they're the credit card portal, so on and so forth. You can save a card. Now this is handy for those businesses where you've got more than one VSP and you want to be able to use a card between them, but you don't want to have to give that card information out. You can actually save for one click, enter the information, and then the next time they come back, that'll already be there, but they'll only be able to use it for this and nothing else. So anyway, you click on all that, you hit pay, and then it will come back where it'll say, please allow up to 24 hours during business to be reviewed. You can click to view your receipt, even though we've emailed you one. You can view it right there. Now we've also done, with this new release, now we've got the VIN number on the receipts for you. So that way you can tie them back together with how you're going to charge for them and that sort of thing. You can also go back to your authorization form and look at it again if there's something that you didn't get that you thought you needed. Sorry about that. And so then we email you a tax invoice that looks something like this. And there again is the VIN and the details as they go. And then, so where do you find your requests? So one thing that we've changed here, you used to find them under the assisted immobilizer reprogramming, but we basically have put that one that it's not operating because we didn't want to cause confusion with the security request. So so now where you're going to go, and this will be where you'll go from now on, you go to your dashboard, which is at the top of your menu, and you're going to look for your security requests. Now, if it says view, then it's one that you can go look at to collect the information. If it says edit, you haven't sent it yet, right? So there's a state change that happens, and then with the completed ones, after you've looked at them, you've got a minute to review the information and get it. But when you actually are done with them, you still can come back and have a look at them again if for some reason you need to see them.
So if you because like that was my concern before when we one of the meetings we were talking about that. So when you click on view, it displays for 1 minute and then it disappears, and you can come back if you might write it down wrong, or you might put it, you're obviously going to, in a minute, you're not going to be punching it straight into the scan tool, or as you're doing that, you're going to be writing it on a piece of paper, taking it to the car and trying to program it or whatever you're going to be doing, I would assume.
Yeah, you can either write it down. You can also, if you want to, you can take a picture of it and then delete the picture when you're done with it. Just don't database this information. That gets automakers really touchy.
Yeah. But if you miss it, if you get a chance, you can come back and view it a couple of times. Yeah.
Yeah. With the automated, you can come back for an hour after your initial view.
Right.
So once you open it up, you can come back for an hour. And with the manual ones, once you've opened it and used up your time, it's done. So you definitely want to capture that information. Will that be down to only a handful by the time it's all done that are manual? But all those notes are on the screen to remind you. So, generally speaking, the only ones where that's going to be a bit of a challenge for you, we don't display through forms anyway, and that's General Motors, right?
Yeah.
Because they're giving you all that information in one shot. So you want to take a picture of it. And as far as I'm concerned, you got a glove box code and all of those. You may want to actually hand those off to your customer in the repair environment and say, don't lose these, or I'll have to charge you next time you lose a key or whatever. So anyway, that's there's a little bit more instruction here that you can check out when you download this document for yourself. It is a PDF, so you can download it and just actually follow through with me on the screens. So yeah, you're going to have the view button. We're probably going to make another state change in the system so that you'll know when those manual requests come through. So they'll look different than the ones that are already in there. We're just sort of debating on what that's going to be at the moment. So dashboard, here's the ones that you can change. Here's the ones that are ready to go. Here's those that are completed. So when you go to that view and you look at it, it'll say automaker's security information response. If you have not looked at it yet, it's going to look like this. And you're going to click that blue button when you're ready to go and collect your information. If we hear that we're having consistent problems with the 1 minute, then we can obviously make changes to that. We've been running this with a project we do with Ford, where keys get lost between being built and shipping to somewhere for over a year and a half, and we haven't had any problems. And some of those locksmiths are up in the air when they do this stuff. But if we have a problem, we can change it. It's not a big deal. This is what it looks like. It'll count you down.
Yeah. Okay.
And again, if this is a automated response, which I'm going to go over here real quickly next, you can actually, when you exit this, you can come back to it for 1 hour. Now that may not be consistent with all brands, but that's what Kia authorized, was 1 hour. You could come back and view it again, 60 seconds at a time. Basically, They want it to disappear off the screen if you just walk away from the screen and leave it there. So this is the automated request. Now everything's the same all the way down until you get to the prepare security information request. When you press this button, that changes the way that the system processes it, because it knows it's a Kia. And this is already running. This isn't conceptual. This has been out there. In fact, there was a little glitch we had where if there was a 0 in the immobilizer code, Kia was stripping it off before they sent it out. So we would get the 0 that was on the front, we get 5 digits instead of 6. And people were like, oh, my code doesn't work. It doesn't have 6 digits. So that was actually, I got a note at about 5:15 your time that was all fixed and ready to deploy. So you've got that problem has been solved. We had a handful of folks that ran into that. So you click this button, and then your next step is going to be where you do your payment. And there was a blue button out there that said complete order, and people were completing it and not doing the payment. And then that just filed it. So we took that off because there really was no need for that button to be there. Then the next thing that happens is you make your payment, you submit it, and then the process changes. You can still click to view your receipt. You can still go back to the form, but that form changes instantaneously to view response. This is the method we are going for with all the brands. We're looking to do this with everybody that does key and immobilizer information this way. so that you will have this instantaneously. Then the locksmiths can do their jobs quickly and not have to be waiting around. And this is the way we designed the system conceptually back in late 20. So again, you got your timeout, and as I mentioned before, 1 minute view time, 1 hour to come back. If the data is not available for some reason, it'll reverse the transaction. As soon as it hits the server will send an exception, and you'll get a reverse on that transaction. It's kind of unlikely that's going to happen, but when we bring other brands on, it's a little bit more likely. Not going to be real likely with Kia, but there may be other brands where it's true. We'll see as we go down the road. So again, we got same basic information here. You get the countdown. When you're all done, just click back to dashboard, and that'll take you back to where you can see all your transactions. If it's one of these, that transaction will stay in that part of the dashboard where you can view it for an hour, and then it'll move to completed. So covered off on that. So here's just a few little details to keep in mind. I've already mentioned that if there's a NPB banner on the logo, that means you're going to do everything with the brand directly. Use the links that we have on their brand page and go to them. But if you do have a problem that they can't resolve, then you can do a missing information report with AASRA. Whether you're a member or not, Rogers, we're changing that for him so that whether you're a member or not, you can file a missing information report. Because let's say you're a Volkswagen only specialist. Well, if you weren't an AASRA member, you wouldn't be able to file a missing information report, and you don't need to be an AASRA member to work with Volkswagen. So you can see where the circle goes there. Subaru is processing their security requests directly through their website, but you need your AASRA credentials to do it. So that's one brand that's a bit different. And so you'll need to go to them directly. There's a link on their brand page to do that. Well, this is outdated. I need to update it. Kia's already got their automated process in place. Also on the dashboard, there is a section that says notifications. You may have seen them if you've been in there recently. When those notifications come up, please read them. They're emergency information you need to know. For example, a brand is going to be doing a software update, and they're going to be down from here to here. So don't try to make a purchase because it won't go. That'd just be one example. Or if you need to buy a key code, this brand is going to be offline to do this. Or, we've made an update. You need to know how it works. All of those can show up in notifications, and they're your way to know what's going on all the time. So, so you want to have a look at those. You can dismiss them once you've read them, but just make sure you look. And again, we've got some brands that their volume is going to be too low. They will be manual with their key and immobilizer codes for however long they're doing it. And so they've agreed to a 24-hour or less response during business hours, Monday through Friday. The way we've got their emails set up now, hopefully it'll be well below the 24-hour response time. So that is the security piece of this, and kind of an overview of everything that's going on right now. So what else can I answer for you guys?
I think personally, I just need to be careful. I think we've got some questions which might be better suited for Roger. We did ask we asked on the Garage Network today, if you could ask AASRA a question, what would it be? And while we've been talking, my phone's been buzzing, but I think ultimately with what your goal was to show us the VSP, I think that's been really good, and definitely anybody that's watched what we've done tonight might have a clearer understanding into what AASRA actually are. I think there's a huge confusion into people's beliefs in what AASRA are. People think, we were doing beta testing using all our $100, Mike.
Oh yeah, I think but I think the site's gone through some massive changes in the last 6 months. Like every time you log on there's something new. Like I think and I think that's I logged on the other day and I'm on my dashboard, which is really good. So I just think, I think there's a big misconception about what's going on, and I know I've had every time we have a conversation about it, it almost give you a headache. Because I think some people just don't know what they've got access to, and I think it's a moving landscape, and I think you've got to get involved and go and have a look and see what's going on. I think that's probably the best advice. And the walkthrough that Donny's just done there now, I've seen things that I didn't even know.
I agree, and I spent some good time going through it. I mean, obviously, I think I had a bit of a whinge at you. Oh, they've got rid of a non-participating and made this shit faint. Sorry for this, where this really faint thing, and I barely saw it, but I can really see it is getting better, and having all that automaker info is really good. We had Costa trying to do a Mercedes online service update. Well, just log into AASRA. It's all the information's there, and it is everything. For $100 a year, you've got all the information in one place, even if you don't do any programming. I think it's good.
Yeah, I think it's good value.
Well, and Roger's been working on the diagnostic tool piece of it, because when we were first putting up the website, I put out a forum and said I want all your diagnostic information links. Well, there were brands that said, "Oh, we don't have to provide that." And rather than getting into a war with them, I took the ones that did take it, and now Roger's going back and getting all of that information. So, he's basically going through and doing a whole nother round of updates to the website. When we first launched, we had brands that didn't even have websites yet. I mean, so, we were published. So we came out July 1 with stuff that some of the brands didn't have anything yet. We didn't even have information from them to do it. And then we were faced with, oh yeah, you can't do security in 2023. You have to do it now. Well, we hadn't even written the software yet, let alone finished discussing how we were going to build it. So it was very unfortunate, because that's not how we like to do things. But we basically had to put this thing out and then kind of build it live in front of you. So that was so that's why every time you log in, it's who moved my cheese now? There's something new, there's something different, and so anyway, I think we're starting to get to where we've got stability, and we're now just fixing little things that users come up with. They're like, well, what about that? It's like, yeah, it's a good idea. We'll go fix that. So where like the NASTAF Foundation has been around for a long time, we're adding new features on it, where this has got all of that additional fit and proper person componentry. It just took a while for us to wrap our head around all the variables that were involved in that and get that up to speed. So, so for your members and the folks that see this, thanks for the patience. It's really been a almost round the clock thing for my team to get this thing built.
Yeah, no, well, thanks for all the efforts in doing it. I know that it's one of the things
we don't see this, do we? We don't see what you're doing, and sometimes I think certainly people in Australia have been like, well, it's all got worse since AASRA have got involved, but I think there's a much bigger picture, isn't it, Mike?
Yes, much bigger.
Yeah.
And I think when you start to see the other side of it and you start to understand what's going on, I think you get a bit of, you got to, it's all working. It's working for the greater good, and it's happening. It's coming together.
I'd certainly like to. Sorry, Don. I'd certainly like to redo this in 3 months' time and see, or I don't know, in a period of time with Donny again, and.
When Donny's had a late night, not when he's eating.
Yeah, yeah. We'll make sure Donny's had a few beers, and then I wouldn't mind going back through this, and then we can see the change as well. From it seems to be evolving all the time. Certainly as of late as well.
If that's okay with you, Donny.
Oh, of course. Well, and really, I think it'll be me on the security side. Roger is taking over because I built that website, and now Roger's taking over building it and making changes to it. So I think you'll kind of have to have both of us. I can show you the new features that come with SDRM as they come out, and he can show you what he's been working on, because he's definitely taken it bull by the horns on a lot of this stuff, getting the brands to bring us new stuff. And most of the brands have been really pretty cooperative with him. I mean, he sends an email out and says, "I need this on your site," and he gets a response the next day. So to their credit, that they're most of them understand now, and we've worked with them for quite a while, so they know we're not out to get them. We're trying to actually help them. And
it's actually going to make them money. These manufacturers kind of play ball, like we're going to pay them money, and it may, like, guys, take the money. Don't go, be with us, not against us.
Back in November of 21, I was doing my first presentation for the automakers, and I said, "Okay, you don't believe me now, but you will later. You will actually make money on this. The cost to do this will in no way, shape, or form come even close to what you'll actually make if you support the aftermarket. I can prove it to you right here in the United States, but I don't even need to go that far. You actually prove it to yourself there when the brands that support independent repair shops do their thing." And, there was a whole bunch of naysayers, and then Toyota got on about, 6-8 months into the whole process after we launched, and said, "You know what? I think we broke even. I think we're making money now."
Yeah.
So, that was the design from the beginning, was to make it easy on them and to do a lot of the work for them on the AASRA side. And then they'd be able to streamline and then focus on getting you the things you need. So I hope that all those little details sort of work their way out here in the next year.
Yeah.
We just need the parts, the genuine car parts suppliers to play the same game, don't we? It's certainly in Australia.
One battle at a time.
Yeah, we might have to get Roger on the case. It sounds like Roger's a bit of a go-getter. I'm really looking forward to meeting him.
Roger's got great experience in the industry, and he understands the parts side. He understands the technical side because of his background, and he's a bit of a wrench too. So he actually understands the technical aspect. So that helps a lot.
Excellent.
Yeah. All right.
Well, we'll make sure we're having a beer for that one, Mike.
There you go.
All right, we better let Donny go. It's late night over there for you.
Really appreciate it, Donny. It's opened my eyes a little bit more into AASRA. I'm not going to say I was anti-AASRA. The manufacturers that I use are non-participating brands, which has nothing to do with you. But I did sign up, and I certainly feel happier anyway. I certainly feel like my $100 gone to, putting your pool heater on, which makes me feel good.
Well, happy to help.
All right, mate. Well, thank you very, very much, and we'll try in a couple of months with Roger.
All right, sounds great. Well, have a good night, guys.
Cheers. Good night.
See you, mate.
Don't forget to join our private Facebook page if you are an automotive technician, and also subscribe to our YouTube and our podcast channel. They are all called The Garage Network. Thanks, guys, and see you next time.